of the posture. So I'm going to do 5 poses. Please pay close attention to the form and follow the postures to the letter. Simhasan lion pose. Namaste.
Okay, so that one took a little while to figure out. We stood there for a while.
How come you guys didn't figure out with me?
You were walking on the other side of the
Alright,
stage.
so
This one was a little bit harder. This was Giancarlo Stanton was the answer. So the way you looked at it, he went an N, an L, an M, a V, and a P in order. So the NL MVP, and his clue, Google it if you don't know, would be the National League MVP would be Giancarlo Stanton, and his number happens to be 27. Oh!
Sujal Patel, who was our yoga guy, he was terrific, we thought. And he also was worn out at the end of the day. He said there's something really isn't right to do the same yoga pose over and over again on the same side, which is what we made him do. So he's probably never going to do yoga again for the rest of his life. He's probably already drinking beer and gaining weight right now. But he gave us a good day out of his life. Anyway, we gave you 5 poses. Tom will show you. He gave you 5 poses out of 10 shown on this flyer, and he made a big point of you had to focus on his form and follow his instructions to the letter. And basically he was forming letters with his body. And if you had any trouble seeing that, you could follow the photographs that he provided of himself doing those poses. He formed 5 letters. What were they? NLMVP. And if you Googled NLMVP, or maybe some of you already knew, the National League Most Valuable Player last year was Giancarlo Stanton, who used to be back with the Marlins back before we decided to improve our team by getting rid of everybody who was any good at the sport of baseball. As part of our rebuilding program here, I will be starting at center field for the Marlins this year.
Go Dave!
Anyway, NL MVP, so all you had to do was Google it, and you could, even though he is now going to the Yankees, he kept the same number. What's his number? 27. 27. Who didn't get? No. How many people got 27? All right. And that too was sink into a big goopy pit of goo. Moving right along.
So that one was kind of weird because there were actually 2 possible answers. One that was a backwards picture and one that was the backwards sculpture. So not sure which one it is. I'm leaning to the backwards sculpture, which would be 1200, but I guess we'll figure that out as we go, right? So to get at the last one, you had to look at the building that's behind me and do some jiggering with the way the windows lined up there, and we got this answer. So that's where we stand. So we have 5 answers. We got 5 answers. Whether they're right or wrong, I really don't know. You know, you have a certain level of confidence and feel pretty good about it, but I'm not sure that they're absolutely right. You know, I feel like we're getting somewhere, but we'll see how it works out. We've got a little time left now. We've got like 45 minutes. We finished a little bit on the early side, which surprised me a little bit because usually they're moderately harder than this. And the interesting thing was, looking at the map, we never went outside of the park here, which is kind of unusual. Usually they make you go a little farther, and the map showed a slightly larger area, so the last puzzle may be outside the map where we are right now, so that's maybe a clue for us. So we're just poking around trying to figure out what all the answers are that we've got, and trying to see if we can use them for something, because it's all discombobulated and confusing for a moment here. I go back to this. Exactly.
Moving right along.
You can tell how highbrow the hunt is by the nature of these clues.
The grid pattern over here. Okay. You got a handout with a bunch of white squares. Here, Tom will show it to you.
His beautiful assistant.
There you go. That one. Right there. You were given that handout with a bunch of weird-looking blacked-out marks and a pencil in the upper right-hand corner, and it said, "Look familiar. If not, look around. Then fill in spaces in these places." If you looked around, you should see the same pencil. It was over there on the Frost Museum of Science, next to a grid pattern of windows. The windows are blacked out in different places from the grid pattern that you were handed. The key was to fill in your grid pattern with the windows where they were blacked out. And if you did that, it formed a number. What was that number? 359. 359 is the number it formed. How many people got that one? All right. You people are very good.
That's
and that clue corresponded with "show every bit of your gown." Okay, the next one. Tom, here's the Doggy Art Show. You were given over there
Main stage puzzle. Ready, go.
Welcome all to the Hunt Food Identity Crisis. We live in an age when basic food items are all mixed up, confused about who they are and where they belong. And I want you all to do a little exercise, okay? Ask yourselves, what other foods share my distinguishing features? And ultimately, what food group do I belong to? Okay, go ahead now. Come on out here. Mingle, mix it up. Look for what you have in common that the other foods don't share. Okay. Okay, it looks like these guys have it figured out. Group hug, group hug, group hug. All right, good job. Now you can go out in the world and recognize others like yourselves. And remember, the sum is greater than the parts. There'll be another performance in just a few minutes.
So not to say anything too loud, but I think the answer is 8 because the cheese had 6 holes, and the bagel and the donut each had 1, and the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. it's crazy sometimes. You start rethinking things and questioning yourself, and well, we went back and noticed the Whole Foods ad that's in the flyer, and kind of interesting that in the Whole Foods ad, they list all 3 of the things that were together for the food one, and it turns out that there was a 4th one as well, the Cheerios, so if you add them all up, you get to a total. So I was 3/4 of the way through the puzzle, but I missed that last piece, so I think we have the right answer now. It's $13.98 is the total cost for all of the items in there. Interesting.
And finally, the Food Identity Conference, which was put on by the New Age, the New World School students. No two doing the same, no two performances the same. Basically, the speaker said, here we have a bunch of foods who need to find their identity. They need to find a common feature, and the kids would all run around looking to find somebody. Then finally, 3 of the foods would always come together, found something in common. They were a bagel, a donut, and some Swiss cheese. They were the 3 foods that had a common feature. What is that feature? Holes. So they are whole foods. They're whole foods. And the narrator said, but the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. Everybody, I assume, looked into the Hunt the Hunt magazine and saw there was a whole food ad that had donuts, bagels, and Swiss cheese. If you added those 3 numbers, though, it didn't add up to a potential solution. You had to add one more whole food. What was it? Cheerios. There was one more whole food in the ad. If you added that, what did you get?
$13.98.
I didn't hear you. $13.98 is what you should have got. Right, some people didn't get that. What? Just for the record, this was Tom's puzzle. But I thought it was a good puzzle. You didn't get that.
Is this just because you all couldn't add? Is that the
How many
problem?
people did get it? I don't know what the dopes are complaining about.
Too bad, Bill.
Okay, so that's it, and that one gave you Too Bad Bill. Okay, so now you had 5 clues, none of which at that point should have made any sense to you at all. At least that our hope was that they wouldn't. And at 3